I know it's been a week. I'm sorry for taking too long, but here we are. Once again, let's review WrestleMania 26. 15 more to go before we complete this series. And we are here at WrestleMania 26, and this one has a lot of sentimental value in my life because this was the first show that I watched where I became a committed full time wrestling fan. I was watching Raw and SmackDown in 2009 from time to time, but I didn't really commit to watching Raw and SmackDown on a weekly basis until the Slammy Awards. Everybody was talking about the Slammy Awards. My friends are like, "Oh, this is when they do like awards for like the best of 2009." And because I wanted to catch up with wrestling, I wasn't really watching it consistently, so I wanted to watch what I missed, and maybe they show highlights of stuff. And yeah, the PG era was a very rough time to watch wrestling. So I'm like, how do I become a full-time wrestling fan? Well, it started when Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker won Match of the Year, and I have mentioned that that is my favorite match of all time. So when Shawn Michaels called out The Undertaker, I'm like, oh, they're gonna build up to this, so I gotta watch consistently. And given that both men are in separate shows, I gotta watch them both. So smart thinking, WWE. I was hooked on that story. I was hooked on a lot of these mid card stories and other stuff that was going on. I wasn't a big fan of the whole Raw guest host era. I wasn't a big fan of all the PG nonsense they were doing. The Divas division was stupid around this time, but they did a good job at building these matches, even though a lot of these matches were really short. Also, side note, if you watch the Peacock version, they cut out a lot of stuff. Because I'm a big fan of this show, I actually bought the DVD, so I know that they cut out a bunch of stuff, including a Slim Jim ad from Santino Marella, some of the ring announcers, Mr. Q's. I know that they actually cut out Jack Swagger taking forever to pick up the briefcase. So, and then they also cut down some video packages on this show. And I should know this because, like I said, this is the first WrestleMania that I watch as a committed fan. And for the most part, as a fan, when I was a kid, this was one of my favorite WrestleManias of all time. Watching it now as an adult, I can see its problems. It's still a great show. It's still a good to great show. But it's. Let's just talk about it. Kicking off the night with America the Beautiful was Fantasia, of all people. And man, Fantasia could have gone places. I remember in 2009, 2010, they were building her up like the next megastar. And usually American Idol stars never really make it in the long run. Just being honest. But Fantasia was good. Now, the biggest problem with this show was that a lot of these matches were really short and they didn't get enough time to build. And some of these matches I was actually looking forward to. I remember on the hype. It was Show Miz versus John Morrison and R-Truth. I could have been excited for this, but this was just mainly sold on its entrances. And this could have had a good story because John Morrison and The Miz broke up. They had that match at Bragging Rights. Big Show aligned himself with The Miz after losing Jericho. And that team was very weirdly put together, but it kind of worked. John Morrison and R-Truth became really good friends around this time, so then they became a tag team. It was very clear that they put these guys together, but I do like all four competitors, so I was like, okay, this could be very exciting. It was only 3 minutes. The only thing I remember was John Morrison doing his finisher, missing it when Big Show pulled The Miz out of the way. There was a part where John Morrison gets KO'd, and Showmiz steals the win. Showmiz was really random, and it kind of worked because, The Miz pretty much used the Big Show just so he get like a bodyguard and a tag team and TV time. Around this time, The Miz was getting over so much so that he main events WrestleMania the following year. But, I mean, I was fine with Showmiz. It wasn't the greatest. The theme song was awful. You guys thought that RVD and Booker T was awful? Like, at least John Morrison and R-Truth came out separately. But, yeah, this match had potential of being one of the best openers, or at least one of the better openers of all time. But this was just disappointing because it was just really short. It was only 3 minutes. On to the Triple Threat Legacy match. Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes, and Ted DiBiase. The story going around was that Cody Rhodes and Ted DiBiase were tired of Randy Orton's BS, even though he really didn't do much outside of beating up the Million Dollar Man and Dusty Rhodes on Raw from time to time. But they were pretty fair. I mean, Randy Orton was pretty fair with them. He was just kind of trying to toughen them up, and they just couldn't hang, and they eventually betray Randy Orton. So naturally, Randy Orton became the babyface. You would have thought that Cody and DiBiase would have been the faces and Randy be the heel, but no. That's how over Randy Orton was around this time. Randy Orton was a badass in 2009, 2008, around that time when he brought in Legacy. 2010 was definitely Randy Orton's year. I'll give you that. When he left Legacy, like them betraying him, yeah, I remember they were booing him and Randy Orton was so over. They just had to pivot everything. And it was kind of a smart triple threat because as of recording, they had just announced Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and CM Punk for WrestleMania 41. But for this, with no titles on the line, it made sense because Cody Rhodes and Ted DiBiase were talking about how they don't care who wins as long as Randy loses, and Randy Orton put him to the test, and that's exactly what happened. It was a 2-on-1 handicap for the first half, and then eventually Cody and DiBiase turned on each other because they wanted their moment. Then Randy Orton took advantage of that and, punted Cody Rhodes and RKO DiBiase, and Randy Orton got the win. And then they had that, like, big oval globe falling and then showing the image of Randy Orton with his lights and stuff. It was a solid match. You can tell that this was not the Cody Rhodes that we know and love today, but he was getting there. And then DiBiase was just nobody. They pushed this guy to the moon. They thought DiBiase was gonna be the megastar, not Cody Rhodes. But then we get the Money in the Bank ladder match, and for this being the last WrestleMania with a Money in the Bank ladder match, this was a huge disappointment. You had Christian, Dolph Ziggler, Jack Swagger, Drew McIntyre, Evan Bourne, Kane, Kofi Kingston, Matt Hardy, MVP, and Shelton Benjamin. This was stacked with way too many people. You could have cut out a lot of people, and half of these people weren't even ready for a WrestleMania spot, if I'm being honest. The winner, Jack Swagger, was not even close to ready. He's I think he should have been in this match, but he was not ready. Matt Hardy was on the way out. Shelton Benjamin was on the way out. MVP was on the way out. A lot of these people were on the way out. Drew McIntyre was going to be billed, but he was already buried up to this point, losing to Kane and Matt Hardy back to back. Eventually, he had to beat a jobber just to get in this Money in the Bank ladder match. Evan Bourne had that cool spot. And then Christian, who was my favorite to win, it made sense. He was killing it in ECW. Why not give him a proper world title run? Have him win the briefcase, and hell, he could have been the one to cash in on Jericho the next night, and then have this like debate over like who deserves to be the champion. Like, imagine if we got Christian, Edge, and Jericho at Extreme Rules. That would have been badass. 3 Canadians for the world champion. That would have been really cool. Anyways, Jack Swagger won, of all people, taking forever. This was not the real American Jack Swagger. This isn't We the People. This is the all-American American with the lisp, doing this at everything he does. And yeah, this was bad. It was not a bad Money in a Bank ladder match, but that's definitely the weakest out of all the Money in a Bank ladder matches that I've seen up to this point. Wow. And eventually they go on to make a pay-per-view out of it, but this is the last Money in a Bank ladder match we get to see at a WrestleMania. The WWE Hall of Fame class of 2010, we had Stu Hart represented by the Hart family, Bob Uecker, Gorgeous George, Mad Dog Vachon, Wendy Richter, Antonio Inoki, and the Million Dollar Man Ted DiBiase. This was a okay class. They were really looking at a lot of the older guys, like we didn't really have like those megastars that we know today. I know Antonio Inoki, I know Wendy Richter. I didn't really know Matt Davishon. Gorgeous George, people know who that was, but I didn't know who that was. Stu Hart just basically helped train a lot of the hearts that we know and love today. And then Bob Uecker, who was a very random celebrity to pick. Around this time, they were really picking the random celebrities. But I'm very happy that the closer was Ted DiBiase. Kind of poetic that Dusty Rhodes and Ted DiBiase Sr. were the closers of their Hall of Fame classes, and then their sons became legacy. It's kind of a cool little moment and Easter egg that you can see there. On to Triple H and Sheamus. Pretty solid match for only 12 minutes. I really enjoyed this. I like the story. How Sheamus got lost the WWE Championship to Triple H at the Elimination Chamber. He wanted revenge because he should be the one in the WWE title picture. So why not pick on the biggest guy, Triple H? And then Triple H kind of buries him in the sense of like, the people who have fought me at WrestleMania have really never really recovered. But the guys who have beat me, like Batista and John Cena, they have become mega stars after that. The question is, are you going to be that next guy? And he wasn't. This was kind of what Austin Theory and John Cena's build was. Only difference is Austin Theory was not even close to ready. Sheamus, you could see the potential. It was kind of weird that Sheamus lost this match, but yet he did some pretty solid things in 2010. He became WWE champion, became King of the Ring. Um, Unfortunately, he missed WrestleMania the following year. We'll get to that next year. But he had a pretty solid run in 2010 despite losing, and they do have a better match at Extreme Rules, the street fight, even though it was kind of silly how Triple H had to pretend to be injured. Let's move on. Let's talk about this match because this one was actually pretty good. I like the bro kick from the ropes. Um, my favorite spot was when Sheamus is about to do the Razor's Edge, and then Triple H reverses it into the pedigree. That was pretty cool, and then that's how Triple H wins. And this was unfortunately the last time that we get to see Triple H as a full-time wrestler. Later on in life, he becomes a part-timer. So this was really the last time we really get to see Triple H full-time in the WWE. CM Punk versus Rey Mysterio, where if Rey Mysterio loses, he joins the Straight Edge Society. Kind of a precursor to when John Cena joined the Nexus. Only difference is this actually had potential of working. Um, if Rey Mysterio were to join the Straight Edge Society, they could have done some cool stuff, but they didn't. I get it. They want to keep the babyface as over as possible, so I don't blame him for not having Rey Mysterio join the Straight Edge Society. It would have been cool, but with this match, it was only 6 minutes. CM Punk took a lot of time with that promo in the beginning. If he didn't have to do that promo, then just maybe this match would have been a little bit longer. What is it with Rey Mysterio having short matches? Even his world title match was short. And hell, last year he beat JBL in like not even a minute. So come on, let's give Rey Mysterio some time. I hated his outfit, Avatar. I hate Avatar. I'm just giving you the heads up. Avatar is one of my least favorite movies of all time. Overrated. Does not deserve to be the highest grossing movie of all time. And yeah, I didn't like this suit of Rey Mysterio because I don't like Avatar. That's how I'm gonna say it. But this match, for what it was okay. Really, it was all about can Rey Mysterio take on the Straight Edge Society, because it really was a 3-on-1 with Serena Deeb covering CM Punk. Eventually, he takes out Luke Gallows, and then he hits the 619. A cool little moment for Rey Mysterio. The feud continues from here on out. Eventually, CM Punk gets his head shaved, and we all get to see what CM Punk looks like bald. But yeah, I was fine with this okay match. I do wish it was longer. That's the only thing I really wish for, because the next match had no reason to be 11 minutes. Bret the Hitman Hart, an old Bret the Hitman Hart, mind you, versus Vince McMahon in a no-holds-barred lumberjack match. Now, this initially was billed as a no-holds-barred match. But this really should have only been 2 minutes. It should have just been Bret Hart beating up Vince for 2 minutes, sharpshooter, and then you go home happy. The Lumberjacks with the Hart family was so stupid. Why would Vince McMahon hire his family? Like he would have. It would have made sense if he had the Hart family watching from the stage entrance ramp, but like I feel like this would have made sense for the Hart family to join Vince McMahon if Owen Hart was still alive, and we could have capped off the feud with Owen Hart still hating on Bret Hart, and then Owen Hart helping Vince lose. Like at the end, that would have been a cool thing. But of course, unfortunately, Owen had passed up to this point. But yeah, this was not good. I really did not like this match. It had no right to be 11 minutes. I do like the moment, and here's something that I found very disappointed. This was one of the best built matches up to WrestleMania. I remember even the promo was pretty cool, but for this to be this long was not necessary. It would have made more sense if Bret Hart was able to compete. Like if he was younger, if he could have actually wrestled, but he had already hit his stroke. Word going around is that if Bret Hart never had that stroke, he could have been wrestling right now. But unfortunately, with what happened with him happened, and this was just I didn't like this. Mm, Moving on, I want to talk about some positive things because we move on to my one of my favorite matches of the night, Chris Jericho versus Edge for the World Heavyweight Championship. I like the build minus the whole Edge threatening with the spear. Like Edge is not really popular for the spear. There should have just been Edge getting the upper hand, Chris Jericho getting some of the upper hand. I do like the build of like how they were tag team partners. Edge got hurt. Chris Jericho thanks him for getting hurt and his success. So now Edge wants revenge. And he's like, "You're gonna regret that I came back. You're gonna regret that you came back." It was this whole back and forth. I liked it. I do like the feud that in this match, Edge never hits the spear. There was this whole story that they don't want two champions changing hands. The only time this ever happened was WrestleMania 21. That was the last time that ever happened. And Chris Jericho winning, I didn't really mind it. Unfortunately, this did lead to the Jack Sawyer cash in. Like I said, it would have made more sense if Christian cashed in on him. The match was really good. You know, Edge and Chris Jericho have great chemistry. They are veterans, and who would have thought that these two Canadians would have been in the world title picture years later? And like I said, great match. I like that they work on Edge's Achilles tendon and using that to the advantage, given that Chris Jericho's move is the Walls of Jericho. Uh, that eventually gets Jericho the win. Edge loses it. He breaks down. He beats up Chris Jericho. And then he does that epic spear from the announce tables onto the barricade, which was cool. And yeah, I was really happy for it. Divas tag team match. It was Team Beth Phoenix versus Team Vicky Guerrero. That's what I'll call it. And this, oh, you thought Bret Hart and Vince was better. This was worse. And this was only 3 minutes. All the girls hit their own moves. Vicky Guerrero is like freaking out that she might get beat up. And then Michelle McCool gets the victory. I didn't even say who the names were. Let me just rewind. Beth Phoenix, Eve Torres, Gail Kim, Kelly Kelly, and Mickey James. And on Vicky's side is Vicky Guerrero, Lake Cool, Michelle McCool, and Layla, Maurice, and Alicia Fox. This was just throwing all the women together. But the moment was all right. Back to the spot. We have Vicky Guerrero crying, and then eventually she does the hog splash, which is the only memorable thing that Michael Cole said all night. The hog splash. Vicky Guerrero botches a pinfall on Kelly Kelly. She picks up her legs for the pin, but her shoulders are not hitting the mat. So the ref stops the count, and then she tells her, "Do it again." and then she punches her a couple more times, and then 1, 2, 3, and then that's over. Terrible match, full of botches and full of screaming, which was unnecessary. But then we get on to one of my favorite WWE title matches of all time, Batista versus John Cena. Now, personally, I would have wished that John Cena didn't make Batista tap out. He should have just passed out, and then we move on to the last man standing match. But I'm fine for what it is because this match was awesome, and I love the feud of Batista being mad that he should be the face of the WWE, not John Cena. John Cena saying that Batista only does this for money, and John Cena does it for the moment. This felt really good. Like, I really enjoyed this feud. And then I like that Batista always had the upper hand, so it was like, oh, can John Cena win? Obviously, he was going to win, but I didn't hate it as much because Batista did some of his best work as a heel around this time. All you do is bark, 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 kiss babies, hug fat chicks. It was just, I love this Batista. I love this match. And it's kind of funny watching John Cena talk about how like he does this for the moment, knowing that he turned heel not that long ago. This is 2025 when I'm reviewing this. But yeah, this was a really good match. A really silly spot where John Cena does the five knuckle shuffle from the top rope and then misses, but then Batista sells it. There's a lot of cool moments. I like the callback to SummerSlam 2008 where John Cena does that like dive from the legs, and then Batista does the Batista bomb. This time he didn't break his neck, thankfully. John Cena hitting all his best moves, the FU. John Cena coming out like he was a soldier, basically a callback to the Marine movie. Was a little silly, but I guess it worked for what it is. But anyways, I can't really fault this match. I really enjoyed it, and I'm glad that John Cena won. On to the main event. Undertaker and Shawn Michaels, the streak versus the career. Man, you want to talk about a good build-up. Said what you will about the PG era. I agree. It had some horrible moments, but they got this right. They got Undertaker versus DX correctly. This was the second part of the 4-part conclusion of this storyline. Shawn Michaels was just this close last year to winning the streak, beating The Undertaker at WrestleMania. This time, he put it all on the line. He got mad that he lost at the Royal Rumble. He cost Undertaker the world title at the Elimination Chamber. He wanted Undertaker to get his revenge. Undertaker accepted, finally, and then he said, you know what? If you're gonna fight me, then you gotta put something on the line. I'm putting the streak, you better put your career on the line. And then it was a deal. And it was very clear. Shawn Michaels like, if I can't beat The Undertaker, then there's no reason for me to wrestle. So I'm going to end it here if I lose. So, sure enough, we had one of the greatest main events of all time. The story was built great. The video package, both of them, the running up the hill one and then the one that we showed here was awesome. It was two legends in their prime going at it one last time, and we don't talk about Crown Jewel, but this match was amazing. The fact that it was no DQ and they didn't use any chairs or any weapons says a lot. They did tombstones to the outside. Shawn Michaels dives into the announce table to hurt Undertaker's leg, doing everything he can to beat the streak. The only thing that I would say was a negative about this match is that JR was not on commentary. JR needed to be here. He was very involved in what Undertaker and Shawn Michaels did last year. So that played a huge part into why this match wasn't as good as WrestleMania 25. But that doesn't take away from how awesome this match is. And the ending was just so poetic of Undertaker hitting everything and Shawn Michaels just refuses to go down. Shawn Michaels does this, slaps the Undertaker. Undertaker snaps. Tombstone. Undertaker didn't want to put Shawn Michaels' career to an end, but he did it. 18-0. They shake hands at the end, breaking kayfabe, and then we have Shawn Michaels just walking out. Normally, WrestleMania ends with the highlight of everything that went down at this particular WrestleMania, but this one ended with just Shawn Michaels walking away and just soaking in the fact that his career was over. Again, we don't talk about Crown Jewel. But man, this was just an amazing, heartfelt moment. One of my favorite main events of all time. This made me want to stick around because I didn't get to see what Shawn Michaels did, so I wanted to see what else he was able to do. His work in 2008, I became a fan of a lot. I love a lot of the work that Shawn Michaels did because of it, and Undertaker, who is my favorite wrestler, just had a lot of awesome moments. So this was the match that made me say I'm gonna stick around and see what else they do. This show has a lot of sentimental value to me because this is the one that made me stick around for as long as I did. Um, However, I can admit that this show had a lot of bad. The mid card was okay. Brad and Vince was terrible. The women's match was terrible. Money in the Bank could have been better if they had less people. And I really wish that a lot of other matches had more time. But for the time that most of these matches had, they did a good job. Minus Brad and Vince and the women. Um, I have to give it a B minus because this has a lot of sentimental value in my eyes that I really wouldn't have been around if this show didn't give me the feels, and it really heavily goes into what Jericho and Edge, Batista and John Cena, and Undertaker and Shawn Michaels did. Those three matches alone made it for me. The mid card was take it or leave it, but I was very satisfied watching this show, so I can't really get mad about it. There was, like I said, a lot of bad that I can see now as an adult, but it's easy to watch, so can't really get mad. Well, that was it for WrestleMania 26. On to WrestleMania 27. Oh, that's gonna be bad. Anyways, take care, everybody.